All right, let's talk about something every mobile game developer obsesses over: performance. You know, that battle for a player's attention. It's literally won or lost in the first few seconds. So today, we're going to dive into a system that can give you a massive, massive edge: Unity Addressables. Let's get into it.
We have all been there, right? You see an awesome ad for a game, maybe something like Offroad Cargo Transport Sim or Little Chef Mania. You hit download, you're all excited, and then you wait and you wait. This quote, man, it just hits the nail on the head. That loading screen isn't just some boring delay, it is the exact moment you might lose a player for good. So you've got to understand, this is not just a technical problem. It's a straight up business challenge. Huge download sizes, painfully slow load times. These are giant walls between you and your players. They directly hammer your game's success, your bottom line. So the real question is, how do you tear those walls down?
Okay, so to really get the solution, we first have to understand what's broken. And the root of the problem is what we call the old monolithic build. For the way mobile games work today, this traditional method, it's just fundamentally flawed.
So the old way, we call it monolithic for a reason. When you hit that build button in Unity, it crams everything: your code, your characters, textures, audio, the whole shebang into one single gigantic package. And for mobile users, people on limited data plans or sketchy Wi-Fi, it's an absolute disaster.
I mean, just look at this comparison. It lays out the pain perfectly. The traditional way gives you a huge initial download. And what's even worse, for every tiny update or bug fix, your player often has to re-download the entire game all over again. Now look at the addressables method. Tiny initial download, and then just small, lightning-fast updates. For the player, the difference is, well, it's night and day.
So, how do we get to this much, much better place? Well, say hello to the Unity Addressable Asset System. And listen, this isn't some minor tweak. It is a fundamental and honestly an incredibly powerful shift in how you build and deliver your games. The core idea is actually pretty simple, but it is revolutionary. You decouple your game's brain, the code, from all its heavy content. Think of it like a restaurant. You don't dump all the raw ingredients on the table at once, right? No, you ship a tiny little app that's just the menu, the core stuff. Then, as the player orders by playing, the dishes, those beautiful high-res textures and models, are brought in from the kitchen in the cloud, exactly when they're needed.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. How does the system actually pull off such amazing results? Well, it all comes down to 5 key pillars of performance that will completely transform your player's experience.
So, pillar number 1 is that whole decoupling process we just talked about. You build a tiny initial app, we're talking under 200 megs, which is a huge deal for anyone on a cellular network. You put all your heavy assets up on a CDN, a content delivery network. Then, while the player is just cruising through the tutorial, your game is quietly downloading everything it needs for the next level in the background. They never even notice.
And this right here, this shows you the real-world impact. A game like Offroad Cargo Transport Sim might actually be 1.5 gigabytes in total size, but on the App Store, it shows up as a tiny 100 megabyte download. That tiny size just demolishes the barrier to entry and gets people playing your game faster than you ever thought possible.
Pillar number 2 is all about smart memory management. It uses a system called reference counting. Think of it like a super efficient librarian for your game's assets. Every time a part of your game needs an asset, the system checks it out. When it's done, it gets checked back in, and the second nobody needs that asset anymore, poof, it's automatically cleared from memory. The old fire and forget method, well, it was a recipe for memory leaks. You know, imagine the big, heavy textures from level 1 of Little Chef Mania are still just sitting there clogging up your phone's RAM when you're all the way on level 10. That's what causes those infuriating out-of-nowhere crashes. Addressables gives you precision. It makes sure only what's needed right now is in memory, which makes your game way, way more stable.
Pillar 3 is an absolute game changer, especially today with AI in the picture, live content updates. With AI tools spitting out incredible new game art faster than ever, you just can't afford to wait days for App Store approval. I mean, look at this timeline. The old process takes days of waiting. The new one, it's instant.
So what does this actually mean for you? It means you can use an AI to generate a cool new Cybertruck skin for your game this morning, upload it to your server, and players can be driving it in your game minutes later. No new build, no submission, no review, This isn't just about keeping your game fresh, it unlocks totally new business models. You can do frequent, low cost cosmetic drops, which, let's be honest, is the engine of any modern live service game.
All right, Pillar 4 attacks a sneaky source of bloat that we call asset duplication. It's famously known as the tree problem. See, in a standard build, if you use the exact same high-quality tree model in 3 different levels, you could easily end up with 3 identical copies of that tree in your final game file. It's just needlessly eating up precious space on your player's phone.
And this is where Addressables gets really smart. The system analyzes all the dependencies across your entire project. It finds those shared assets, like our tree, and it packs that common asset into a single, shared bundle that all 3 levels can use. It ensures you only store it once, dramatically shrinking your game's footprint.
And finally, pillar number 5. This is all about delivering that premium, polished feel, asynchronous loading. You know when a game just freezes for a split second to load something? Players feel that. We call it stutter, and you can see it right here in this chart. The old way freezes the main game thread, and that creates that ugly dip. But because Addressables loads content in the background on a separate thread, the main game never freezes, and that gives your players that silky smooth 60 frames per second experience they crave.
Okay, we've gone through a lot of technical stuff, but let's zoom out. Why does any of this actually matter? Well, it matters because all these features add up to give you a seriously powerful competitive edge, all by focusing on the one thing that matters most, the player.
It really just boils down to these 3 things. Addressables means lower friction because you get way more players in the door with faster installs. It means higher stability with a drastic reduction in those memory-related crashes. And it means better retention because you can push instant content updates to keep them coming back. At the end of the day, it's about respecting the player, respecting their time, their data plan, and their phone storage. And that respect is what builds a loyal fan base and turns a pretty good game into a monster hit.
So I'll leave you with this question. The tools to build better, faster, more stable mobile games, they're not coming soon. They are here right now. They work in perfect sync with modern tools like AI art pipelines. So take a hard look at your own process and ask yourself, is your development pipeline really ready for the future of mobile gaming?